I am. All right. Okay, I'd like to call the June 6, 2024 special meeting to order. You can stand to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Coleman. Councilwoman Gonzalez absent. Councilman Smeeseth. Here. Supervisor Allen.
I'm here. Okay, so the purpose. Just a second. We have convened this special meeting tonight so that we can interview interested candidates for the town board vacancy. We did not we didn't pre-arrange slots for each of the candidates. We have 3 candidates here who'd like to interview for the vacancy. And so I did have a request from one of the candidates to go first. So if the board is okay with just selecting that right off the bat, we can get started with Renee Ciardi. So you can have a seat. Renee, you can actually sit at any of the 3 chairs over there. Yeah, you can sit there or you can sit so that you're a little closer. Whatever you prefer. So thank you for joining us tonight. So we have all 3 candidates here. And I just wanted to start by saying a few things about the duties, the powers and duties of the town board. And I'm just going to say that once so that we don't say it every time. And then we're basically just allotting 20 minutes per interview. So these will be sort of quick because we have a full agenda of another meeting that's starting immediately to follow. So it'll be roughly 20 minutes per. If we do like 25, that's okay, but we don't have infinite amount of time. And after we do the interviews, the board will decide what our next steps are. If we want to re-interview any of candidates, if we want to keep, it open. We don't know what the next steps are going to be yet. But everything that we talk about in terms of filling the town board vacancy has to be done in public because this is an elected, the position is an elected position. So any discussions we have, any interviews we have will be handled in public meetings. So in terms of the town board, I have an excerpt from the comptroller's handbook for elected officials that I pasted in a document. I put 3 copies at the end, so each candidate has a copy of that. But basically, just reviewing that, the town board is the legislative authority of the town. So that's the governing board of the town. Among other functions, generally fills vacancies in offices, elective or appointed, may select a town attorney and a town engineer, appoints constables or police officers, and provides for the hiring of other employees as necessary for the conduct of town business. Certain highway employees are hired by the superintendent, but the appropriations are authorized by the town board. The town board adopts a budget, fixes salaries of officers and employees, establishes rules of board procedure, and designates the official newspaper of the town. This is straight from the handbook. Other functions are so numerous that only a sample can be given here. So I think just wanting to review that this is a very like paperwork heavy, contract heavy, law heavy position that is the powers and the duties of the board are really set forth in town law and general municipal law, highway law and education law. So part of what we've been doing as a board recently is revising zoning code. We have lots of contract review. There's a lot of annual contracts that get renewed every year for the operation of the town. And it's basically, I'd say, really rooted in those legislative functions. In order to be eligible to be a town board member, you have to be an elector of the municipality at the time of taking office. And you can't be a felon. Do you know?
Yeah.
You cannot be a felon. So there are some specifics about being appointed to this, like you have to live here and you can't be a felon. So with that, I wanted to start to open up the first interview, and I'm just keeping an eye on the time. It's 5:40. So to begin, hi Renee, thank you for joining us. We'd like to start by offering you a few minutes to give us an introduction to yourself. Really what we'd like to hear is if you could address how long you've been a resident, why you've chosen to live here or to continue living here, why you're interested in the town board seat, and highlight some of your relevant skills and experience. So basically summarizing your letter of intent for us for the next few minutes.
Excuse me, I didn't catch your name.
Renee Ciardi.
What?
Renee Ciardi.
Renee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Renee Ciardi. I have deep roots here in the town of Rochester. I am part of the 12th generation that live off our land. My family owns and operates Saundersville Farms. When I was about 10, the farm market opened, so you asked why I chose to live here. From a very young age, I've been given the opportunity to see the interworking of the community. I got to witness first dates turned into families, conversations over coffee develop into business endeavors. Teenagers who now work at the market today were once small children sitting on the counter near the register being checked out. So it's home. This is home to me. Some skills that I could bring to the board. I work for New York Farm Bureau. I manage 7 county boards and I run their state young farmer and rancher program. And part of my job responsibilities are adapting a budget for all those boards and the program, navigating through zoning and assessing issues that our members are having, cultivating new leaders for their board seats, and I have one more question. Wait, it's fine.
Great. Can I ask a question just about something you said, which was that you manage the boards. What's this? If you don't mind asking, what is the scope of those boards?
Sure. So every New York Farm Bureau is a state chapter, and then every county has a chapter, and every county has its own set of bylaws. So every county board is president, vice president, and your officers. They have a treasury that they have to maintain, and their responsibility is to their members of the county to inform them on issues that are happening, lobbying issues, policies for agriculture. And it's really just an advocating position to keep everybody aware of what's happening.
Okay, so the board collaboratively came up with 4 questions. Do either of you want to ask the next question, or
You just run through them.
you want me to run through them all?
Is it mine? I'm so collaborative, I don't
It's
remember.
very collaborative. So I can just ask the questions, but these are questions that came from the board, and board members, please feel free to ask any clarifying questions last week. I know it's weird being interviewed by a board or body, so, okay, so what are your, if you could just tell us your top 1 to 2 priorities or issues, for, in the town, for the town board, and how you would propose to address them, as a member of the town board.
So in no particular order, my top priority first being that the town continues to be a right to farm community. And I think by having a board seat, I advocate for agriculture and have a voice there. Second priority being that town of Rochester remains an affordable place to live for families, much like I mentioned earlier. And by having a seat on the board, I would like to represent those families to the best of my ability.
And then this is more about you and how you would operate. So if you could speak to how you deal with conflict and compromise in life. And this could be either how you speaking to how you handle that in either professional or personal experience.
I think professionally and personally, it's the same. My husband may say differently, but I engage empathetically. I like to see both sides of the conflict and then work together on finding a resolution that both parties are happy.
And do you have a specific example that you could share with us?
Well, in my line of work, so we are a bipartisan organization that is a politically driven volunteer group. So they're very, very opinionated people. So I'm constantly put in the position of, hearing them out, maybe not necessarily agreeing, but finding an avenue where we can come up with a solution and moving forward so that we both feel like we gain.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question to that too, because you use the same term empathetic understanding in your letter that you had written us, and the term resonated with me, but so my question would be for empathetic understanding on a town board level, if you're going at being a local that's born and raised here, do you think you're able to have empathetic understanding and have understanding and being able to put yourself in people who haven't been born and raised here while trying to make and navigate decisions on the board?
I mean, I absolutely, I feel like I would, because again, when talking about the farm market, we aren't successful just because of our locals. It's a collaboration of, second homeowners. I've worked closely with a lot of them. So yes, I think I could very much agree with you. I mean, everybody's human. So.
And then again, another question about how you operate. So what is your process for making decisions, especially in a group environment? And what do you need in order to feel like you can make a decision?
I'm a listener, so I seem very quiet, but I'm also an external processor. So I need to gather all of the relevant information and weigh out the pros and cons, and then collaborate with a group of my peers and before making a final decision.
Okay. So then our last question, what is missing from the town board?
With all due respect, and I know this kind of pertains to what you just touched on, but I do feel like we need another multi-generational homegrown representative.
So that was 8 minutes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So are there any follow-up questions or just, things that you wanna?
So you mentioned your day job and kind of understanding the pressures and the requirements of zoning and how to balance the needs of farmers versus the needs of housing and things like that. What are some of the pressures that you currently see related to zoning, and what are some of the trends that you see, and where do you fall on the spectrum of those? Do you think they are things that need to be addressed? Do you think there are things that are being adequately addressed? What are some of the priorities from zoning that you see?
You mean in our particular county?
In our county, yeah, and more generally.
Generally?
most interested in?
Yeah, it's mostly, waterways and wooded areas. And to be honest, I do more of the navigating as far as connecting them with the right people that they need to speak with, or finding the right language that they need to follow through. If they're being pushed one way, then I help them provide language saying, well, this is what it says and this is what I'm doing. Not so much of particular issues that I can say I run into a lot, if that makes sense. I do a lot of the networking for them and getting them connected with it.
What do you think the priority should be? And where do you kind of fall? Because part of the responsibilities here is, providing your voice and kind of weighing in the way that you see the community. Well, where do you kind of fall on some of this?
That's a good question because I've been paid for so long to not have an opinion. So this is gonna be a great experience for me to realize that I kind of voice my opinion. Where do I fall on that? I would like to keep, Ackford rural. I would like things to remain the same.
How do you think we could do that? Like, how do we balance? Because obviously there's changes happening in the community. There's a lot of people that are moving here. We hear about housing pressure, not just here, but in Ulster County. Do you have any thoughts on what could be done better by this board or in terms of zoning?
Well, I'm not sitting in your position at this point, so I can't tell you what you need to be doing better. And it's not until I'm experiencing what those particular issues are that I can have or form an opinion on. Like I said, I need to gather all of the information to make a final decision. But I would like to, maybe gear away from welfare housing. I would like to maybe do a limit on the amount of Airbnbs in the area. But again, I'm not prepared to answer this question, so I'm not off the cusp. I'm not very good.
Yeah.
I think I'm good. I think your letter, for me personally, is another homegrown person on the board. I was born and raised in the immediate area and in the town of Rochester. Your letter of interest, a lot of it resonated. That's why I ran for my boards.
Well, and in my position professionally, I'm always saying to our board members, you just need to show up. And I felt like it was time to show up. This was the opportunity to show up.
And I think just more like specifically in terms of what inputs do you need to make decisions? That's something that we're working on to make. There's a lot of information ahead of each meeting, and I'm 5 weeks into this role and it's kind of overwhelming. But right now it's a lot of email, pieces of paper, and we're trying to think about how to organize our meetings. That we currently have 3 meetings every month. The first Thursday of the month, the second Thursday of the month, and the last Thursday of the month. And we're trying to format it so that our workshop meeting is where we do the bulk of our work, but everyone gets what they need in order to do the work together, like ahead of that meeting. And I'm just curious if just specifically about types of information and do you feel comfortable making decisions when you maybe feel 80% that way and maybe not 20? I'm just curious in terms of preparing for a meeting.
If there's enough time, if I feel like there'll be enough time.
Yeah, how much time do you need? I'm just curious if you can speak a little bit towards that, because it's like a really tangible thing that we do is lots of PDFs. And
I think, as for anybody, I respect deadlines and I would understand that this situation needs to come to a decision and I might not feel 100%, if I feel 80%. I think that's good.
yeah. Okay. Great.
You have questions for us?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I do not.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you guys.
Do we have a time frame?
We're gonna do that after.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted.
I mean,
I didn't.
yeah. I don't think we did. So we have two more candidates to interview. Amelia, would you like to?
Sure.
Okay, great. We'll have you do this. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for being here.
Well, you know,
And so this is Amelia.
Should everyone speak up?
of course, I'm very loud, so you'll hear me for sure.
Because the previous candidate, I heard her name Renee, as a retired speech therapist who was also hard of hearing. I heard every other word. I couldn't possibly take
Okay,
notes.
shoot. Okay, thank you. But we're not taking comment from the public.
Sorry.
So our microphone, we have a microphone here and a microphone right here. Okay, so you heard the intro
Yes.
to the town board. And there's a copy of the interview questions that I circulated. So if you could just start by giving us a brief introduction and what we are looking for you to cover, how long you've been a resident, why you've chosen to live or stay here, why you're interested in the town board seat, and then highlight any relevant skills or experience that you would bring to the town board.
Oh, so I was born, my parents are city transplants. They came up here in 1976 and gave birth to me. So I was raised I grew up in Kerhonkson. I left Kerhonkson to go to New Paltz for a few years to go to college, and then I came back to Kerhonkson. So I've been a lifelong resident of Ulster County, and I've been in town in Rochester for 41 years of my 48 years. No, that's not right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, somewhere around. I stayed here. I've traveled around the globe some. I've spent time in other places. I've spent time at relatives. I've spent time across the ocean, and I always found myself wanting to come home. I just really love it here. And even my sister said, "Why did you stay? I said, I like where I live. I love where I live. I appreciate everything about where I live. From the people who are here on the weekends, who I work for, to the people who have been here for 12 generations. Let's see what else. I'm interested in the seat because I feel like this town I feel like I have to give back. It's given to me just being here, raising my kids here, sending them to Rondell. So I feel like part of me needs to give back to the community that's fostered who I am and who we are as a family, and all of that kind of good stuff. And I had some prior board experience. I was on a board for a nursery school, which is of course a microcosm of being on a town board, but you do still have the same very long meetings. You still have the same agendas. You still have to wade through everything. You still have to learn how to compromise with your fellow mothers who are on the board. It's always the mothers. And I also, I do manage the company I work for, and I'm just really good at problem solving. I'm really good at getting information, taking that information, figuring out how to resolve the issue. Even within a group setting, of course, I'm not the decider, but so I just feel like that's why I feel like I could be an asset to the town of Rochester.
What do you mean when you say you're not the decider? You mean the board decides?
Yeah,
as a group?
so you have to decide as a group. It's not one person making a decision, it never is, I learned that very quickly being on that school board is even the smallest decisions, everyone has to weigh in, even if it's talking about are we going to minimize the amount of times parents have to come because it was a cooperative at the time. It was always a board decision, wasn't, and I was the president of that board for 2 years of the 3. And I still wasn't the decider. We all had to come to a decision together. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
Yes, it does.
I'm like, am I speaking?
You are.
Am I giving a
Yes.
complete sentence here?
You are.
Am I black out?
And then the first question that we have is if you could, what are your top 1 to 2 priorities or issues that are under the purview of the town board? And how would you propose to address them?
That's it's like a whale of a thing, what I want, I mean, obviously, and which I talked about when I was first interviewed initially to just run for the board X amount of years ago. Growth, you know, I understand it's different. It's gonna be different around here. It's not gonna be Sampson. It's not gonna be Clay Hill Road like I remember when I was 10 and there was like a car every 3 hours. It's not gonna ever be like that. But I still would like to have responsible growth of the area. Like Renee said, we gotta retain some of the land. I think it's displacement of environmental, you know, I'm a gardener by profession, so you're talking about entire ecosystems being sort of just raised to put up new structures, animals are being displaced. That is a little frustrating to me. It's concerning to me. Obviously there's gonna be growth, but I would like responsible growth. And I'm also of the mind of rental. I know a lot of people around here, they can't find rentals, they can't afford to rent around here. The Airbnb market is bananas and that is a concern for me. I don't know how to fix that except regulate it, but I think you guys are already trying to do that, but you know, that it is a whole process. And like coming up with the right solution is really where it's at. I don't know what the right solution is. You can't say no. I mean, that, you know, that's what I want to do, but that's not compromise.
Okay, and then our next question. Yeah, yes, great segue. How do you deal with conflict and compromise? And if you could just, you know, speak to your any experiences to this, which could be professional or personal.
I mean, I deal with conflict well. I don't love conflict. Who does? It's never good when someone's upset or angry or frustrated, and maybe you're at the other end of that frustration. You know, that's never good. But I think you really have to listen. I think communication is key. Conflict resolution is certainly an art form. I don't have major conflicts in my line of work, except that, of course, you every now and again get difficult clients that maybe, you know, are not happy with something you've done or misunderstood what you were talking about coming in and doing. And you have to be really good at sort of, you know, being an ambassador for your company and being polite and listening and explaining. And, you know, I mean, I think that's imperative. I think communication is imperative in conflict, because I think if you actually listen to the other person or the other people, it will help you to resolve whatever is going on. I think a lot of times people shut down in conflict situations and then they just go, oh no, you know, I mean, certainly it has happened to me. I don't know, not much other conflict. I mean, like I said, I was on that school board. We had a huge conflict at the end of my tenure there where the school was dying and we were trying as a board to figure out how to save the school because a cooperative was not feasible in today's world. Everybody's working. And to expect parents to come in X amount of times for X amount of hours, it just wasn't feasible. So the board, we were trying to come up with a solution to save the school, which a lot of the parent members were not happy about because they had also attended the school and they wanted to keep it a cooperative, but they didn't understand that the school was going to die. So that was like, it was a conflict, but we resolved it because we sort of did a compromise at the end where parents could still volunteer their time and come into the school if they wanted, but it wouldn't be mandated as part of, you know, your child attending the school. So I guess that's an example.
That was a good segue.
What is your process for making decisions, especially in a group environment, and what inputs do you need in order to make a decision, to make that final decision?
I mean, I think decision making in a group setting is, again, communication. I think that's the process for me, is listening to all sides or two sides or whatever, and then coming to a resolution. Now, I'm not always going to agree with maybe what's decided, but I can always find a place where I'm okay with it. I've always been good at that, where it's like, okay, that will work. It's not the ultimate, what I wanted to happen, but we can come to a decision that works, that hopefully makes everybody happy. And, that's probably the way I would do that. I mean, that's typically how I do that.
And then in terms of like what you need in order to start formulating those decisions?
Just like information is helpful. I mean, having all the information, isn't that helpful on whatever subject it might be? I mean, input. I need input. I was a math major. I got a math degree in mathematics, so I'm very analytical in that. I just need all the information and then I can make a decision based on that. Which I hope everybody's doing that. I don't think everybody does do that. That's what you would hope to get all the information, then make a decision.
Yeah, or I think sometimes we have laws and there's some books, but there's no like rule book for how to be a board member.
That's right.
And so a lot of it is knowing what you don't know and having to know what you need to make a decision that you feel good
And
about.
it's certainly a learning curve, at least when I was on that school board, it's like, I really went into it blind. They just sort of browbeat me into like becoming the board president. But like, once I got into it and once you start getting all the information, it's like, it becomes very sort of linear. Like then the train starts rolling, then you know how things work. Then you get better at all the things because you know how things work. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then the question about us is, what is missing from the town board right now?
I don't know, it's like, I don't really have an agenda coming in here. I just like, again, like I said, I just wanted to like give back to my community. And I feel like I'm my dad was very blue collar. He grew up in Peekskill. I mean, he was a comic book artist, but like, it's like, I still have that mentality. Like, I know how I know about that side. I know about this side. And I've always been sort of, even in high school, good at sort of being a mediator between groups. Like I was even brought into the principals once and he said, let me talk to you because you're friends with everybody. And maybe we can resolve why these kids are being mean to these kids. And I'm still sort of that way. I want everyone's side. I want to know everyone's side. I want to talk to my neighbors. So I don't know if it's missing from the board. I just think that's something that I would like to be able to contribute is like, being somewhere in the middle, neither here nor there, and really just being able to like find out get the read on town of Rochester, the people of town of Rochester, and not just those people, all the people. I mean, because all my clients are city people. Very few of them live here full time. I would say 85% of them come up on the weekends. So I already know how to communicate with them, and I have very good relationships with them. But I feel the same way about my neighbor, so it's not a missing thing. It's more like, what do I want to bring to the table, I guess.
Any follow-up questions from the board?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you kind of were answering questions.
Yeah,
before
I
we got
know.
to ask
I'm a bit
them.
of a.
So, yeah, good. I like.
Excuse me. We'll find out.
If you were to sit on the board, what would your first priority be? Day one, what would you want to work on? What would you want to do first?
Like I said, like, I don't want to come in like guns blazing. I want to come in and like, I think it's better to come in and like assess the situation. I don't have any major agenda. Like I said, I'm concerned about people I know that can't live here anymore because they can't afford to, or they can't find a rent. So like, that would probably be something I would like to focus on as a board member, but it's not like I'm going to come in and be like, this is what I want to do when we're doing it. That's not really, I'm not, I really am, like I said, I'm analytical. So I like to get my surroundings, and then I like to go in and go, okay, we're going to do this, or I'm going to do this. Yeah.
Can you be like that if you really care about something? Say the board isn't prioritized something.
Of course. I'm a crazy passionate person. And I make my husband crazy because of it, so he was like, oh, really, you're doing what now? But he's very supportive, he's proud of me, because he knows I'm passionate, and maybe I need it out, I don't know.
So we currently have 3 regularly scheduled meetings a
Mhm.
month. The first Thursday, the second
Second and the
Thursday, and the last. Like I said before, we are working on making sure we can get the appropriate level of information to board members so that
Yeah.
everyone feels like they can workshop things and make decisions. How do you feel about receiving, lots of PDFs and emails and
That's my,
Do you feel
I
like-
do that all day, every day. I'm
okay.
constantly emailing and just
Yeah.
communicating with clients, and constant. During the day, at the end of the day, 11 PM at night, it's just, I'm on the go. That's my thing.
And then, do you have any questions for us?
No. Not at all.
Okay.
I'm sure I will. If you get me in here, I'll be like,
Well,
"Oh,
you're
I'm
in here now, so just.
No, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
have any.
Okay,
All right.
all right. Anything else? Okay, thanks. Hey, Susan?
Yes, you're gonna ask maybe for a small bottle of water.
Oh, I don't think we have bottles. I think we have cups.
I had one, I thought with you, but I don't. If you don't mind, could I sit here instead of there?
Yeah, of course.
This chair's more comfortable.
Oh, you just want to put the chair there.
Or the one I'm sitting in. I've been here for luncheons and I'm trying to find the best chair available.
These are the ones?
No, I want to sit here. Just bring this chair I'm sitting over. That chair sinks down too much, I'm sorry. It's just easier for me. Yeah. Anchor yourself a little bit. Okay. Today I feel like a dinosaur. I have been in New Paltz at a wonderful bed and breakfast with no cell service for 52 hours. Reminds me of when I first moved here 28 years ago, and I'd see people at the end of their driveways trying to talk on their cell phones. So here we are. Not much has changed. There are still parts of Ulster County that can't be reached. My best friend Tammy Smith lives at the top of Lawrence Hill Road. Do you know when she got cable service? 1 year ago. She's lived here and grew up here her entire life. Anyway, enough about communication via something other than in person, which is my favorite form of communication.
Okay,
I'm gonna
well,
tell you a little-
well, if I could just, you're here to be interviewed by the town board. So just like the other candidates.
I know, I have everything written down.
Great, so I'm chairing the meeting, so I just wanted to do the same format that we've done with all the other.
Yes,
candidates.
did I get some water or no?
Oh, no.
Sorry. I just felt I needed to be somewhere where everyone could hear me, not just a few people.
So, we're starting with the 5 questions that, I printed out for you today. And we just would like to begin by giving you a few minutes to give a brief introduction. And when you do that, what we'd really like you to include in that is how long you've been a resident of the town of Rochester, why you've chosen to live here, why you're interested in the town board seat, and if you could just highlight some of your relevant skills and experience that you would bring to the town board in your brief intro.
Yes, I will. Number 1 is the introduction. I lived in the state of New Jersey for 23 years. I grew up in a small town called Glen Rock in Bourbon County, New Jersey. It was a small town that had a real sense of community. Then I moved to Old Hurley Hurley, New York, right, our neighbor right up the road. Old Hurley also had a small town feeling, but also a very, very strong sense of community. I grew up in a wonderful world in Glen Rock, New Jersey, where my mother was also born. We had the same kindergarten teacher. I moved to Old Hurley, where I raised my 3 children, very much the same as I was raised. I lived there for 21 years. I raised my 3 children. My oldest son, Brian, is a chef who lives in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands for 25 years. My middle son is an HVAC technician who lives in Ulster County. And my daughter lives up near Ithaca, New York. She's a stay-at-home mother, and like her mother, the founder and president of the town toy library of the Finger Lakes in Ithaca, New York. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. In Old Hurley, I wore so many hats, I could have had a full-time job. I was the secretary of the Hurley Nursing School Board, a member and secretary for 5 years. I was there when we developed our logo. I was there when we hired a lawyer and we became, I think it's LLC. I took notes, I listened, and I learned a lot in that position. And then I was also president of the swim team board for many years. My children swam at the Hurley Rec. They went to the Meyer Elementary School in Old Hurley. And my son thought it was great, my oldest one, that he knew Ernest C. Meyer's grandchildren, and they were naming a high school or an elementary school after somebody that he knew, not somebody that was a past president or somebody he didn't know. He thought that was marvelous. He's the one that's the chef in St. Thomas. Anyway, living in Old Hurley was very much like living in Glen Rock, New Jersey. I lived there 21 years. 28 years ago, I moved here. And I moved from Bergen County, one of the 10 richest counties in the United States of America, to Ulster County, which was, at 20 years ago was dirt poor. I learned a lot about the people that didn't want IBM to come, the old timers, and they came and they left. I learned a lot when I campaigned for somebody for school board in Hurley. Boy, did I get a mouthful. Well, we didn't want to be consolidated. We wanted to stay Hurley and just send our kids to high school. We didn't want to be consolidated. We voted no, and they took us in anyway. Boy, that was an experience going door to door. I've also done the census 5 different times. The last time was here down in Ellenville and around this area. That's an interesting experience also. I think I've done enough of an introduction. Number 2 is, what are your top 1 to 2 priorities or issues for the town board, and how would you propose to address them? I've got a piece of paper here with arrows. It's kind of oh, okay. Let's just go for my gut instead of I've got a lot of notes here. Okay.
And Susan,
The town of,
yes, also, the board will be the one making the decision, so.
right. That's why I kind of sat here, but I guess I'm addressing the audience.
Yeah.
I apologize, Aaron. I'll address you also. I love the town of Rochester. I love Glen Rock, New Jersey. I loved Old Hurley, and I love the town of Rochester. This town, to me, has the small town feeling and yet the greater sense of community. And as the former candidate mentioned, we have people here that have been born here and grown up here. And then we have people like myself who lived here for 28 years. And then we have the seasonal people. I mean, on my road, Queens Highway is approximately 7 miles long, and I live at 611, about halfway, 3.5 miles. And I would say about a block past my house, every other house is seasonal people. People that come up from the city. And a lot of them come up here and they fall in love with this place. Recently at Saundersville Farms, I'm there at the end of they closed at 5, but the greenhouse didn't close till 5:30. And this silver Thunderbird comes in and he says, are they open? I said, well, the Saundersville Farms closed, and I was telling him how wonderful it is, but the greenhouse is open. He said, I don't see anybody. And I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Canada. I said, but you look Oriental. Yes, I'm a Chinese Canadian. And this Chinese Canadian and his partner, woman, I don't get her name, they came up here and they fell in love with this place, and they live on Burpo Road. I don't know where Burpo Road is. It's off of Schwabe Turnpike. That's how I learned how to pronounce it. He pronounced it differently, but it was a wonderful conversation for me that here they came from Canada and bought a second home here. So we have neighbors from everywhere. And, you know, I believe in a team approach, and that one of my top priorities for the town of Rochester is to gather information from everyone. This is something that the town of Hurley just did recently. This is high tech. You scan this code and it's everyone over 18 in Hurley is eligible, not just people who vote, everyone over 18. Survey closes on May 31st. I wanted to take the survey since I own property still in Hurley, but I was so busy, I didn't have time. But this I think is great. This is something we could do very simply, very easily. I believe that we need to gather from everyone that lives here, everyone who loves the town of Rochester, from the child who was born here and still lives here, to the person who moved here 20 years ago and loves it. We need more local representation from the entire community, not just registered voters. Anyone 12 or over, I wrote, we could have kids, but let's not have an essay contest and ask children what they want for the town of Rochester where they've lived. Maybe their whole lives, or maybe they're transplants from some other place. Maybe they used to go to Saugerties, maybe they used to go to Kingston, and now they come to Roundup Valley, which I believe is one of the finest in all of the 9 school districts that are in Ulster County. I don't know much about the Marlborough one, that's the furthest south. I believe that we need to ask the children in school, the deacons and elders of the local churches, the white collar workers, the blue collar workers, the independent businessmen and women, the large businesses in the town of Rochester. I can only think of Stewart's, but they are a chain and they are quite a wonderful company. The small businesses like Darlene from Christian's Flower Shop, where she used to work when it was Christian's Greenhouse, owned by a wonderful fine man who had twin boys who used to help out. To Troy's, from Troy's Deli and Pizza, what I think is the best pizza around, but that's just my personal opinion. Everyone who loves Accord and Kerhonkson, as I have for 28 years, of course, ask the rescue squad, the fire company, Chief Miller, and the farmers. The farmers are why we love this area, town of Rochester. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there are 3 farms in all of New York State that are owned by the same family for over 300 years. And we have 2 of them right here. We have Kelder's Farm, owned by Chris and his wife, over 300 years in the same family, started as a dairy farm. We have the Schoonmakers of Saundersville Farm, from the youngest, Jennifer and Ryan, to the oldest, Dan and Jack. Jennifer and Ryan now run the retail, and they own Saundersville Farms. In the summer, I practically live there. I don't cook in my kitchen. I get a lot of food from Saundersville. If I'm going to Kingston, I'll bring a sandwich from Saundersville because it's cheaper and better than what Panera Bread sandwiches. And then to the oldest, Dan and Jack, both of whom have lost their wives. And Jack, he can't drive a car anymore, but I bet he could still drive a tractor. He still gets up between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. to supervise his workers. These people are the salt of the earth, and we live among them. So this is just, town of Rochester, to me, is the best of all worlds. The best small town, even though here we don't have a main street. Hurley didn't have one either, like Glen Rock, New Jersey had all kinds of stores and stuff. The closest maybe High Falls has sort of a main street. Ellenville, from what I hear, they used to have wonderful boutique stores and everything. People that in their 90s will tell you that Ellenville was hopping back in the day. They had stores better than anywhere in Ulster County. I think that's partly due to the Resnicks and the people that donated why we have a hospital. One of the best small hospitals that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Two of my boys were born in Valley Hospital in Richmond, New Jersey. I just saw on the news that they built a brand new Valley Hospital. I don't know what they're gonna do with the old one. It was grand. But the new one, I've got to go down and see it. I really have to.
So Susan,
Anyway.
I don't want to interrupt you, but just be
Yes, let's
mindful
go on
of
to
the
the next
time.
question.
We can go in, so
Number
how would you
3.
deal with conflict and compromise
Yes.
in life?
I find, this is from my work experience as a speech therapist for 23 years. I find common ground and have positive, constructive, and confidential conversation. I put that in because I worked in the school districts where you must have confidentiality. To reach a solution, I believe in the team approach. I worked with teams of speech therapists. I worked all over. I was not a public school person. I worked all over. I worked in Ulster County, Orange County, and Sullivan County. I did not work in Dutchess County. I did interview for a job in Dutchess County. However, I presented to many CSE committees all over Ulster, Dutchess, Orange, and Sullivan County, and others. I worked for the Children's Annex in Kingston, which is now the Center for Spectrum Services. From my understanding, they have students from over 35 districts in New York State. Ellenville was one of the best to present to, round out. When I moved here, I met someone named Judy Traficante. She had her family had the restaurant that's now Stonehouse Tavern. And she said, Susan, I hate to tell you this, but if you want to be a speech therapist in Round Up District, you have to wait till one of those guys are retired. Okay, enough said. So I never worked for the Round Up Valley School District, unfortunately. I believe in the team approach. I believe that we have to compromise. And number 4 is, what is your process for making decisions when in a group environment? What inputs do you need to make decisions? Sometimes with conversations about difficult issues, you need to agree to disagree and work for the good of the entire community. As we have a community here with a totally diverse population, not just diverse in culture, diverse in types of business and types of employment, and in Chinese, Canadians, and transplants from New York City that may have lived in suburbia where I lived, where I grew up. I kind of went through most of this before, but I believe in order to reach a solution, you need to listen to everyone. You need to listen to Erin. You need to listen to, I don't know your names. I know Erin's name. You need to listen to the lady sitting over there in the corner. You need to listen to this gentleman right there. And you need to listen to this one. And you need to listen to this young fellow with the beard on his phone. You need to listen to everybody. And I mean everybody in your whole community. Because if you don't, then you won't get to where you want to go. And my goal to be on this board is to help the town of Rochester grow and thrive and become, like when we talk about the students that I work with, a lot of disabled students, to make them reach their maximum potential. That is what I want for the town of Rochester, to reach its potential. The town of Rochester is a baby that's still growing. We have so far to go that we could shine Years ago, I did some home health care. For many years, I did home health care in addition to speech therapy. And I met somebody who lived on the Bend, Old Queens Highway. And in their house, they had literature, and it talked about how people came up the canals, and that they came up to work, and that people came up to go to school through High Falls, through the canal walk. And that's the only way they could get here. There weren't buses. There was nothing. This was a farm county. There was horse and buggy and the waterways. And I mean, this whole area is so historic. Kingston was once like Albany. Yes, and then Hurley was for a very short time the capital of the state of New York. For a very short time after they burned Kingston, so then they put it in Hurley for a very short time. And the old stone house, Hurley has the most stone houses in one place, second to New Paltz. And Don Kent, may he rest in peace. He had the post office that was once, I believe, a bar with some burlesque type stuff. And he could tell you everything. He lived to be, I believe, close to 100 by a couple of days. And that family, it's just amazing. The judge that used to marry people on the same road in Hurley. And I rented from Fran and John Hafler, an old stone house for 5 years. And the judge's daughter rented the apartment next to me. She was an art teacher in Kingston. So there's just so much Ulster County history, and with the farms here, and there was a movie made here years ago,
Susan, we
by
just
Jane Fonda called Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding. And we had the largest garden gnome, now it's the third largest Guinness Book of World Records.
we just have a couple minutes, so you're saying that that relates to your decision making because you feel like people should know the history place.
Well, the history of all of Ulster County is what we're all about here. And the town of Rochester is where we have the farms.
And then for our final question, we just have 1 or 2 minutes left, so I just want to make sure you have time to get through that last question, which is what is missing from the town board?
What's missing from the town board? More local representation from people who have lived here a long time. And what also is missing, when I ran meetings, there's something called Robert's Rule of Order, which I think people have forgotten about. And when Harold Lipton was here, when Ron Santowski was a board member, when Carl Chipman was our supervisor, we adhered more to Robert's Rules of Order, which is how you're supposed to run a meeting. And I mean, I've been a deacon of the church, Hurley Reformed Church. I'm currently on Wednesday nights. That's why I'm over in New Paltz, because I'm taking a class to become a preaching elder, which is very important to me, important enough that I'm staying in a bed and breakfast. It has no cell service, but that's beside the point. So I just feel that we need to reach everyone, from the youngest to the oldest. And I think our best way is to go about it 3 ways. And when I was the mother of a special needs child, the one that's the HVAC technician, when I was presenting on the board, it is required by the school districts that you be contacted 3 ways: a phone call, I guess a text or an email, and snail mail. It is required that you get a letter in the mail. I recently got a letter at my house I'm dealing with a personal situation of mine, which I won't get into, but at any rate, she got a letter from the Saugerties School District. Her children live in my home and they go to Saugerties. Okay. Not everyone has email. Not everyone has a fax machine. Therefore, my first year down at the Elderly Children's Annex, my first year as a speech therapist, I had a young Chinese girl who was electively mute. I don't know if you know what that means, but I had 2 Chinese families who barely spoke English. So you need 3 ways to reach people. And snail mail, unfortunately, is still one of them. In the Kingston School District, in the George Washington School, they have kids who they send the letter home with the 5th grader because the parents can't read enough English. And they did a survey once and asked children in the George Washington School District what they want to be when they grew up. 75% of the students in the George Washington, not George Washington, the other one, the one over by the Strand there. I think it's called, anyway, there's 2 school districts where they all got free lunch, free breakfast. George Washington is one. It was the other one. They did a survey and 75% of the students said when they grew up, they wanted to be on welfare. They think it is a job. I never met anybody on welfare, so I moved to Kingston, New York, or near Kingston.
Well, we are at our allotted time. So thank you so much for being here. I think we're closing. That was the time that we
Yes.
allotted. Okay.
Aren't there supposed to be 5 people on the board?
Yes, we have one absence tonight and 1 vacancy. And the absent board member could not be here because of an illness and is watching the interviews on YouTube because we're streaming.
Oh, Zoom, yeah.
So she's not able to Zoom in and participate because of open meetings laws, but is,
Yeah,
did
that
watch.
for a long time with
Yeah.
the history of the Rochester Reformed Church. We had Zoom meetings.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we have to, the board is now gonna talk and then we have to adjourn this meeting and start our regular business.
Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry if I overspoke at times, but I have such a passion for this community. And I thank you for this. I couldn't have done this without the hard copy.
Yeah,
And I
okay,
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
And these are the notes I took for the second candidate. Who helped me get my sneakers on, and I didn't know she was also a candidate.
No problem.
No, thank you. And I wanted to come here with my cane, without my walker, and a pair of nice sandals, but they were in my house. And my next door neighbor, if it hadn't rained, I would have asked him, but he's gonna be 91 in the fall. He can't drive on slippery roads. He might get in an accident, and that would be horrendous. And he has to leave and go somewhere else, and it's killing him to have to leave the community he's loved for almost 91 years.
Okay, so just before we adjourn this meeting, I wanted to offer, we had one other person that put their name forward that wasn't able to be here. Does the board want to try to schedule that person for next meeting, or do you feel like we don't want to interview anymore?
Sure. It's too heavy for me to lift. I have a chair like another one at my house made in Germany.
Yeah, that's something, what time frame that's gonna put us at then for an appointment and discussing these stuff. I'm open to opinions. I don't know strong opinion.
Was it scheduled and then it wasn't able to?
They were out of town and didn't have service, so I was able to coordinate with them today, but so I wasn't able to, I didn't have them confirmed until today when they said they couldn't attend. But it's up to us whether or not we want to extend and interview that person or say no for now and then see, we don't really necessarily have to decide. We don't have to make an appointment tonight. You know, we're not really time bound, but, so it's like whatever we feel like we need to make the best decision.
I'd like to wait and talk as a board. Councilwoman Dial's here. I don't think we should schedule anything else.
Okay,
See what we want to do next.
Yeah, I agree with that to collectively, when, Emily's here next week.
okay. So we'll, make sure that we add that to our workshop agenda for next week. But we won't schedule the fourth interview for that meeting. Okay, that sounds good. So with that, is there anything else on the topic of interviews, appointments?
No, just thank you to the candidates who came out.
Yes, thank you for coming out.
I know.
Okay, great. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the special meeting at 6:39.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're on the same link, so I'd like to now call the Town of Rochester Town Board regular meeting to order. We've said the pledge, and we have to do the roll call again. And we've done the roll call. So the first, and Mary Lou's here.
I'm gonna run this, wait, you guys each forward, like,
You can go.
can I? I have a big bad one.
Oh, okay, sure.
Before we fully change it. My daughter's so far.
I'm just here to keep them, they want to go first. Hi, Susan.
Thank you for being on your phone.
On that line.
Okay, so we have a quorum again, so anyone needs to have conversation, you can please step outside for that. So we're gonna get to the first item on our agenda, which is the acceptance of the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda with the following amendments. Well, actually, there's just two items that we don't need on the agenda, so that would be resolution H and resolution I don't read.
I'll second. With the changes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and I'm an aye also. Okay, great. So our next item is we are inviting the Community Preservation Plan Committee to present. And we might need a few minutes to get the slides up. So great. Let's go ahead and do you have those? How would you like?
Do you want us all to come up there?
Sure, yeah. We have a big table today. I don't have them. I didn't, did you share them with my town, you know?
You know, I don't know, yeah, from
Oh.
Google.
Okay.
Obviously it didn't work.
Sure.
Is that-
So I'll. Great. Okay, great.
Let's see.
Great.
Peter's
So,
in Italy.
I'm just gonna have to join the Zoom.
Oh, how terrible. That was awful.
in Italy.
Okay, so I'm gonna get these up,
You two are neighbors, aren't you?
No, Sydney's in the house near my father. Yeah. I also graduated with
oh, Susan, this is for the Community Preservation Plan Committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't clear. That was not clear at all, sorry. I didn't have the agenda until just a few minutes ago.
Okay, so just
Let it go.
It's just like everybody got moving forward. It was in the room.
Let's give you a tiny snap. Yeah. Yeah. I ate at 9:30 this morning. I got a crown.
They almost very.
Yeah.
You know where to find us.
And just be a boss and look at it.
I've done that much.
It's an apple tree. No leaves. I love it. I didn't even notice Mary was sneezing in there before when I turned around. Oh, yeah. Oh. Very
Jeremy, Monday, where's he gonna be in? Should I come in? I need to make sure he knows it's okay to talk to me or give up David or not.
Yeah.
Or do I have to go to the town supervisor?
No, but let me see what his hours are, 'cause he's part-time, so I don't know if he's there in the morning or afternoon on Monday, so I'll find out. I'll find out and I'll.
where is the?
If you play the slideshow in the middle.
Oh, there. I'm used to Google.
Oh, doc.
Play from beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Let me see if I can. Oh,
I'm gonna say you have to do
yeah, I have to do it on this one. Sorry about that. It's Mary Lou. It'll show on YouTube as whoever's talking. Okay, so here we are. Welcome. Thank you. I know we said 15 minutes, so I will just, it's 6:45, so we'll aim to, I'll just keep an eye on the clock. But we want to give you guys the time you need, so I'm not necessarily going to be super, super strict about it, but that's our goal there.
Well, we have a really short presentation, so we're hoping we can get it all in 15 minutes. So,
Great.
anyway, I'm Ted Fink, and I've been working on the community preservation plan with the committee, with Larry and Christy and Sydney.
Peter
and-
Nelson, who
and
was our
Sam.
chairman, we made him our chairman, he could not join us, he had other prior commitments, but he may be watching us across the waves.
He may be, and there's one other individual too, Rick Leader Barnes, who has been doing the geographic information system. That's all of the data analysis. So anyway, if you could just go to the first slide on there. What I'd like to do really is just give you a little bit of a recap of some of the things that I'm aware of with the community preservation fund, the community preservation plan, and so forth. And really what we want to do is just walk you through the next steps as well. And because it's critical in terms of the timing on this, because of the state enabling legislation, which first of all gives the town of Rochester the ability to create a community preservation fund. That's what this is all about. It's a new authority, just in the last 2 decades really here in the Hudson Valley. It was around 2006 when the first municipality, the Hudson Valley, was able to get special state legislation. It's in Orange County. And Following that by 1 year, the town of Red Hook and Dutchess County was also able to get special state legislation. And because the two programs that were established in those communities to buy up primarily development rights on farms, the state looked at it and said, you know, let's open this up for other municipalities. And initially, they only did it for Westchester and Putnam County, which I was. But in 2019, because of Senator Jen Metzger, she had it opened up to all of the Ulster County communities. So it's a program that has not gotten a lot of press, but it's very popular where it's been enacted. In addition to those first two towns, it was Warwick and Orange County, Red Hook and Dutchess County. Following that, New Paltz, they established a program in 2020. They were followed in 2022 by Gardner and by Marbletown. And there was another community that also did a community preservation plan that year, but they decided not to go forward with the referendum at that time. I think they'll do it this year, and that's a Putnam County. So 6 so far in the Hudson Valley. There are 6 communities on Long Island established community preservation funds, and 2 in the works this year, including Rochester and a town in Westchester. It's all the working on. And so it's a whole new way to be able to fund some of the recommendations, some of the policies that communities have developed over the years in your comprehensive plan, in other comprehensive plans, open space plans that many communities have developed. And the idea is to establish a fund for identifying parcels that are important to the community, whether it's parcels that would lead to drinking water, protection, recreational lands, trails, biodiversity and habitats, wildlife habitats, scenic views, historic resources. Those are the kinds of things that the state has now said, if you want to protect your community character, here's a way to be able to generate funds, to be able to use that for purchasing lands and development rights on lands that are known as conservation easements. And so what the Community Preservation Fund is, it's a one-time real estate transfer tax. It's paid by the buyer of the property. And what it does is it provides a fund that the town can use to negotiate with landowners on a willing buyer, willing seller basis only. Properties that have been identified as having important environmental attributes. And this could be all variety of different things that we discussed. There's 14 different classes of priorities that can be established under the Hudson Valley Preservation Line. One thing that the Community Preservation Fund does is it creates a way for unlocking federal, state, and other funds, private funds that are available to help out. And in each of the towns where I've worked in, all of the towns that I've mentioned so far are ones that I've worked with on their community preservation plans. They've all been able to generate many additional dollars by tapping into other programs that provide matching funds, in many cases 50%. So you can really go even further than you might expect. Every one of the communities that I've worked in so far, all 6 are absolutely delighted that they have this program now. Because in the cases of all of them, and this includes Rochester, one of the things which you have in your planning documents, which I started preparing the community preservation plan, recommendations going all the way back to 1969 for protecting the character of the town, for protecting what's special, the farms, water quality, streams, canals, things like that. So you've got a good basis for it already in your community planning documents. And there's a lot of benefits to the town. It protects your unique quality of life. And this would apply to persons who are residents of the town of all ages and all income levels. So it benefits everyone in the community. And by providing outdoor locations for recreational activities, it's good for health. It's good for property values. There have been studies that have been done for decades now that consistently show that properties that are located nearby lands that are protected as forever wild increase in value and have a higher value and hold that value in relation to other properties that lack that. It doesn't raise property taxes, which I think is a really important aspect of it. It's a fee that is paid only by the buyer of property. And in many ways, it's a way to be able to guarantee someone that is moving into Rochester because they love the town, because they love the scenic beauty here and everything that Rochester has to offer. It guarantees that it's going to be there in the future. And so to the next one. So basically, how does the transfer tax work? So it only applies to a portion of a sale that is over the county median. So if we have the example here of the 2023 county median sales price, it's $376,500. So if someone were to purchase a property in the town that's $376,500 or less, they would not be subject to the tax. If someone, for instance, wanted to buy a house that was $500,000 in the town, the first $376,500 would be exempt from the tax. So it would be the difference between the $376,000 and $500,000. So the allowance within the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act is that up to 2% of that sale transaction can be subject to the transfer tax. So that means on a $500,000 house, that would be about $4,000 roughly. Okay, so that's basically where the tax stands. The Community Preservation Fund can accept donations, but the monies that are put into the Community Preservation Fund can only be used to purchase parcels that are identified in the Community Preservation Fund. So just flip it to the next one. So I think So the first one I've already mentioned, the town has consistently planned for open space conservation. When I went back and I looked at the 1969, it actually was called a development plan. So even though it was a development plan, it was the town's comprehensive plan at that time. And and when you see the document, you'll see that there are very strong recommendations for protecting those sorts of things. So if you look at that and you look at the thread through all of the other plans that have been done, the comprehensive plan in 2006, the groundwater protection plan, the open space inventory, the natural heritage plan, and so forth, they all are saying very similar things, which is to protect the natural and cultural resources that are most important to town residents. There's actually a recommendation in the comprehensive plan, the 2006 plan, to actually pursue a real estate transfer tax, specifically preserving farms and open space. So it's a effective tool that's available in New York State and parts, very selected parts of New York State now. And it's been very successful where it's been used. So next slide. So when you look at the Community Preservation Fund as a new revenue stream that helps the town to achieve its goals, it supports both current and future needs of the town. It takes a long view, and one of the first things I think that's important to consider is that open and conserved spaces are open and public and available, and those will be accessible to everyone in the community. The investment that people have in their homes, 80% of town residents own their own homes. And as I mentioned earlier, it protects and improves property values. And the good part about it is when these lands are purchased on parkland, it's protected, constitutionally protected in New York, and open space that's subject to conservation easements are in perpetuity. So once it gets protected That's it. It's there for the future. And that's particularly important when you consider that 1 in 5 residents of the town are under 18. So we have about 1,365 children who all need room to grow and to learn and everything else. And these programs can result in nature preserves. They can result in active parks for recreational needs and for providing public access, with tot lots and things like that where people need it. And so all of this is laid out in the community preservation plan. The state legislation says that you have to prepare a community preservation plan first that identifies all of the priorities for the community. And so what we did as a committee and working with the committee was to first understand what are the priorities that have been identified throughout the community to date in your planning documents. And so we did that. I don't know what happened to the number in there, but anyway, number one, number nine,
Oh, they're all priorities.
they're all priorities. Right?
Oh, we didn't want to prioritize priorities.
So essentially, what we've done is identify 6 primary areas that would capture many of the resources, the natural and cultural resources that are identified in the town. Prior, farming is a big one, drinking water protection. So water is preserved for the future. Scenic resources, historic resources, recreation, and those are the 6 broad categories. And then within that, Rick Leader Barnes, the GIS professional, he's come up with 52 separate data sets that have been identified through state studies, the National Heritage Program in New York State, the Senior Directory Program, the Department of Environmental Conservation, through things like agricultural districts, through the Agricultural Markets Department, the Nature Conservancy. They have quite a lot of Audubon and so forth. So these have all been used, and this is this identification of parcels is all done on a spreadsheet. It's a very large spreadsheet that identifies parcel by parcel in the town where these resources are found. And so it's used in a very broad sense to be a roadmap that the town can use to identify parcels that have anywhere from 1 to multiple attributes that are identified. And that provides the basis for the use of the community preservation plan. If a parcel is desired in the town, but it's not listed in the community preservation plan, then the community preservation fund cannot be used to purchase that parcel in simple or in a conservation easement. So it's important to be as inclusive as possible in your community preservation plan. That's based simply on the experience of the other communities. I think the first 2 communities that I worked with, Red Hook and Warwick, they wound up doing quite a number of updates because they were not that inclusive early on. There weren't that many examples of how to go about doing this. And so they've learned now that it's better to be inclusive. And so we don't know the numbers yet because Rick is still working on that information, but there'll probably be a few thousand parcels in the town that will be identified in this community preservation plan. And then I think the next one, just go to that. Yeah, so there's the different categories right up on the top, the priority categories. I've already talked about the 52 mapping data sets. And there's a score that Rick has been working on. That's the sum of all of the criteria to determine the eligibility for the building sellers. And so if as I said, if you are interested in a particular parcel and it has no attributes, then it's not available for use of the community preservation fund. But if there's 1 or more, that's going to give an indication as to how high a priority it may be. If it meets all 6 of the priority categories, then that might be ranked at a higher level. But that doesn't mean that you're only going to consider those parcels, because the program, because it involves only willing sellers, it's people that are interested in conserving.
Eventually, it will be the town board that makes the determination of what is to be, so having a willing buyer, but also the town board having it recommended to them, but the town board will eventually decide on each property that is bought or each rights to that property.
That's correct. That's correct. And the way that the process works is that there'll be 3 local laws that will be up for consideration that Mary Lou was working on. A local law to adopt a community preservation plan, local law to create the community preservation fund, and a community preservation fund advisory board. It's an advisory board of citizens in the town who are farmers and others who have a background in land conservation. That's the way the state legislation reads, and it's 5 or 7 members. And they will go through the spreadsheet. They'll look at applications that are made for use of the community preservation fund from the willing sellers. And they will make a recommendation to the town board. The decision is solely in the hands of the town board to make that decision. And it's all going to be subject to seeker environmental reviews. Every parcel that is up for possible use of the community preservation fund, there's a public hearing that has to be held. So there is a process involved in this. So this is not the end of it. This is only the beginning of the program. Okay. And then if you could just go to the last one, and we can already over time. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on remaining here. What we'd be shooting for would be August 5th. They have this completed and filed with the Ulster County Board of Elections. And then to appear on the record, because the 3rd law is a local law that imposes the real estate transfer tax subject to a permissive referendum. And so in order to be able to do that, the law says it has to be ready 90 days before. So that would be August 5th. So all of the other dates in there are just to fill in the steps that have to be done. So there's public hearings, a seeker review has to be initiated. So all of these things would take place in the next few months.
Okay.
So did I forget anything?
Did A+, great job.
Okay.
The
It
heat
did
is
take
on.
you 20 minutes. But does the board have any questions?
I just have one. When we get your guys' draft, can you also just send along the list? I know you guys had to pick 6 of the other 9 of the 15 priorities you guys could have
It's all in the plan.
selected from.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
I just wanted to see them to see if
everything's in there.
cohesive
Yeah.
what you picked with mine also.
It's a big document,
Yeah,
but it's
I
all.
That's what it's gonna look like. That's your neighborhood model now.
It's like
And-
70 pages.
Yeah, it's gonna be probably closer to 100 pages. And that doesn't include the spreadsheet, which is enormous.
We're bigger and better than Marbletown. The timeline has really impressed all of us a lot. And I hope it impresses you also, because if we all collectively miss this deadline, it means it cannot happen for another 12 months.
Right.
And that would be a lot of opportunities to get going with an important new program if the town board so rules and if the town votes that way, which we think they probably will.
Thank you, Helen, for doing this. I know it's a really crazy time. I heard you mention Peter, there's another member as well.
Yeah.
Peter
Is
Nelson. Yeah, he's on the other
there
side.
another member?
Sam.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Misters are on, the missing misters are on.
Well,
We didn't want to.
give credit to everyone who's.
We weren't gonna embarrass anyone. Since you raised it, we will.
Well,
And as you all know, everyone that's participated, community members and residents.
yeah, we appreciate your time on this. I think it's great. I just wanted to clarify. So you were saying, you said 52, and I thought you were talking about 52 parcels, but then I saw 52 data sets that were used to identify parcels.
Yes.
And ultimately, I assume we're gonna exclude state lands.
Yes.
Or already protected lands.
That's right.
Are town lands included in some of the protections, or in terms of any?
Well, parkland would be excluded.
Okay.
Because that would be eligible to use funds. And these are for primarily private lands, so anything that's, you know, lands that are owned by DOT or county DPW and things like that, those would be excluded. School district lands would typically be excluded. There's a long list of exclusions that have been made in local laws about what parcels are not included. But it's, you know, primarily addressed for use with private lands.
So if there was a town-owned parcel, we would not be able to use the funds to make improvements on that.
There is an allowance within the legislation that allows 10% of the funds when they're expended on a parcel, purchase a parcel or development rights on a parcel for stewardship and maintenance. But that can't be used for instance, creating new recreational facilities. You have a recreational fee for subdivisions and that sort of thing. That's typically how the development happens. And so there are a lot of restrictions on that. It's primarily designed to purchase.
Okay. And then my other question is, can you just speak a little bit more in detail about the consent process? So is it at both at the time it goes on the list and at the time of sale, or just at the time of sale that all parties would have to agree?
You mean in terms of the
You kept saying mutually agree. I thought it sounded like.
We will put an inclusive list of private properties that we think have merit from the various criteria. And then it will be up, if the town decides that it's interested in a specific property, that's when all parties have to agree.
For when the actual like purchase would happen, but not to go on the list.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And nothing would keep a private property owner who is on the list from approaching the town and saying, hey, I'd be interested in dealing with you.
Okay.
They're free to
Yeah.
do that. But
Yeah.
it is only an opportunity, not a requirement.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're not doing eminent domain.
We're not
Correct.
running away from that.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, I thought I heard you say in order to get on the list, but it doesn't, right now, we're just identifying parcels, but whoever the specific property owner is, obviously has to consent to the sale of it.
But there will be an impressive number and percentage of private properties on this list. Because we all live in a place that has water, you know, beautiful views and wooded areas and open areas and rivers and so
Okay.
forth. So there's a lot of properties on them.
And, you know, if someone that wasn't included on the list felt, well, gee, you know, you missed it. I have a beautiful wetland out back and I know there's rare species that live out there. Why am I not on the list? There's a requirement in the legislation that every 5 years that the community preservation plan be updated. That doesn't mean that you can't update it, you know, in less than 5-year periods. You can update it anytime if the need arises. But with real estate, the problem is when the property goes up for sale, if it's a desirable property and it's one of those attributes, it may be something that the town would want to approach a seller who is, you know, putting up their land for sale, saying, you know, would you be willing to sort of thing. So.
Okay.
And are the updates, is that done by resolution? Is that local law? Do you have to actually modify the law?
And you have to go through the same process for the, yeah, so.
But you don't have to wait 5 years.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. For next steps, you'll be back at our meeting next week. Is that the plan?
Absolutely.
And that at that point, that is when we have to be ready to stick to this
Timeline.
this very ambitious timeline. So we basically have a month to get everything set for. Yes.
And I'll have local laws
Oh.
drafted for you.
Oh, hold on, Mary Lou. The volume was really low.
That's
Is
okay.
this the first time you've spoken?
Yes,
Okay.
Good.
yes. On the timeline, as it shows for June 13th, we will have the draft laws for you to review. And and I'm sorry, not Peter, Ted's gonna work on the seeker, and I'll be working on the laws. So hopefully we can really get things moving next week.
Okay, so that's just a note for us too. My only other question is, can you help make this kind of template for us for our zoning?
And I do have,
For the zoning, you guys don't have all those state restrictions on getting it in for the referendum.
I know, but it'd be good to get it done.
I know.
I just have a question about because you guys do have this lovely timeline. I know you had said that it can be up to 2%. Are you guys currently going to be suggesting the full 2% as the tax charge?
We haven't decided that yet.
Okay.
We are gonna recommend something, but we haven't figured out. Well, it's kind of agreed on the median line being a cutoff point, county median, but we haven't gone beyond that yet. We're discussing it.
Okay,
Is that a giant flamingo too?
great.
That's horrible.
Get a picture with the flamingo too in our next presentation. Whatever it takes. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
You too.
If you'd like to look at it. Oh, no, oh, yeah, no, I mean, I can get that.
Oh, no.
Okay,
I'll see ours.
all right, there, you will, you'll see it.
Great.
I want a flamingo.
All right. So, moving along, we're now at our sort of report section. I have the supervisor's financial report. Kind of surprise. It's a mess. That's yours. And let me give you, because this is your page. And then if you guys, if you guys are feeling like shuffling papers, I have all the copies. Does anyone want to split these up? Sorry, this is where we're at. Where the supervisor's at. And then I do not have, unfortunately, I will have to submit the May financials at our next meeting because I don't have those. Great, thank you. And then this is your copy of the highway. So I will give the May financials, revenue and total expenditures. Then I also have the abstract 5 that we approved at our audit meeting listed there. But if total expenditures are always different because we have payroll and things like that. Don't go in the abstracts. Okay, supervisor's correspondence report. I don't have anything specific that's outside of the agenda to share. I do have a folder here for the board that is called correspondence. These are things that come in for me. The board is welcome to look through that if you'd like. The one thing that I wanted to highlight is that we, and we'll maybe talk about this a little bit in our upcoming updates, but per our meeting a month ago, where I floated the idea of circulating an update form to town departments and boards and commissions. I did that a little late, so we didn't get a report from every single board or commission or department, but we got quite a few. And I circulated those to you all, and they're all in one email. And the basic format of that form is, what have you been working on? What did you achieve in the last month? What are the issues or challenges you're facing? And what are you hoping to achieve in the next month? So these are not meant to replace liaison relationships or liaison reports, but I thought it would be a good holistic way of taking a snapshot of what's going on in the town, and happy to update the report based on feedback from boards and commissions or departments or from the board. I have this thing. So just wanted to share that. For the supervisors update, I have the 3 updates for grants. New York Rising still hasn't been closed out, but I'm finalizing. I just got onboarded into the reporting program and should be submitting. I have about 10 reports to submit, and that we're working to get that closed out ASAP, and then we'll get our final reimbursement check because all invoices have been paid. Bridge New York, I'm trying to schedule a meeting with properties that are neighboring the bridge for next week, and then after that, hopefully would be bringing a concept design to the board for approval, at which point we will start the next phase of that project. For the county ARPA parks, there is a voucher. I have a couple vouchers for tonight for $400 for the health department. So we got a initial design proposal. We're trying to, basically we hired an engineer, and we're at that step where we have to get the septic design approved. So I have that voucher and just the application for you to see. And I circulated the overview of like where they'd like to put it. And then the proposal for the usage. So if there's any feedback about that, we need that in order to submit that application. I thought it looked good as it was. They have it at 50 visitors, I believe. They have it at 100 people per day. So what we had discussed is that if there was going to be a bigger event or like an event, then we would make sure we would add it to both the contract for use and also for our town events, that we would get portable potties to make sure we have enough toilets for the usage if we think it's going to be over 100 a day. If we go over that, then we have to build more bathroom stalls. So that's vouchers here for later in the agenda. And upcoming meetings. Unfortunately, I did not get an event schedule. So I know we have a Hamlet Talk coming up this month, but I'm sure you'll get to that, Kate. So if anyone has any events that you want to share when you're doing your reports, please do that. But in terms of our upcoming meetings, we have our June workshop meeting, which is the 13th, and our June audit, which falls on June. That would be June 22nd. So just awareness. If you guys think you're gonna have any absences, just please let me know. We can't really like reschedule our meetings unless it's at our workshop meeting or at that June audit meeting. So that's really all I have. We will be talking about the workshop meeting agenda later on in the meeting. Mary Lou, do you have anything to report? I don't think we talked about this ahead of time.
No, I was just going to report on what we already discussed about the preservation. So that's it. Then I'll have the laws for you
Okay.
next week.
Okay. Kate, tax collector, town clerk report.
Okay, so for the month of May, $61,202.27 was collected on the town clerk end for various departments. I received a resignation from Timothy Hornbeck for HMAO/mechanic in the highway department. And taxes officially were over collecting on Monday, June 3rd. We are just finalizing those, waiting for last minute postmarked bills to come in, and I will be ordering the unpaid list tomorrow and settling with the county sometime next week.
Great. I did not receive any correspondence from the highway superintendent for a report. So next we're at department updates and liaison reports. Who wants to go first?
Take it away, Michael. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of my phone.
So I don't have any updates on the Spectrum front. We have the contract signed. I don't know if you've heard anything back from them about the check that we had sent that they were asking about.
They have not received it. I sent it via certified mail and it has not cleared. So I have to, it's probably in there.
Okay, and you haven't heard back from them. They haven't asked about it again. If you need me to do anything, contact.
Okay.
ZBA, I know there was one of the recent applications, there was a process issue that they were reviewing that they may have to revisit some of that. In terms of parks, so I called around to a few fence places. I haven't found anyone yet that is working in this area. So I have a few more places I'm gonna try to call to get somebody out, hopefully. I don't know who we should have to coordinate that, if somebody, because we have 3 places that we kind of want to look at. I may be able to arrange to be able to meet at some of those places, but maybe between this group here, we can figure out who could actually like show them what needs to be.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in. I'm free after 2 most afternoons, so
Okay.
I can drive around if there's anything that's close, as long as I have keys to get in. I don't mind taking them around to do the close.
It's still just the
Okay,
3,
you guys are.
just the park here and the transportation. So I'll see if I can at least get a few people to come out, provide us flow through that.
Okay.
Constabulary, so received the report, just to go over the numbers, 24 neighbor, quality of life complaints, 6 traffic complaints, 2 environmental complaints, 5 new building department violations, 0 new court cases open, 9 court proceedings remain open, and 0 court proceedings closed. I did go through, we had talked with Rich Miller last time about format for reporting. So I did make an initial version of that I think we can review and then see if that will kind of get us some additional background information and to help us understand what some of these calls are about and see whether there's specific things we need to address through legislation or otherwise. Nothing significant on the fire district. I do want to thank the fire district for coordinating some of the events for Memorial Day. I also want to thank you all and everyone in the town who helped out, cleaning the gardens at the park. The weather fortunately held off and we didn't get rained on, so I thought it was a great ceremony and really appreciate all the work people put in, and for people who came out to honor those we've lost. So thank you to them for hosting that. Marbletown and KFAS and the EMS front, playing a little bit of phone tag with Joe Vitti at Marbletown. My fault, not his. We did talk briefly, but had a bad connection, so I still need to link up with him. KFAS, I know we still haven't seen the financials that we were looking for from them. I did talk to county EMS just to get, because I know people wanted to know, what kind of long-term options are available. So we do have the option as a town. We can currently go out. Anyone who has a certificate of need, we can go out and they can quote us to provide services if we felt like we needed additional services in the town. So there are organizations that already have certificates of need that could, if we felt like we were not having calls answered, we could go out and we could actually approach them about getting a quote for services. The other option that I know people have brought up is the town can actually get their own certificate of need called a MuniCon. And I did clarify, so the way that process works is, well, there's a whole process associated with it, but you basically have to demonstrate need and make a request to be able to do that. To get that, my understanding based off talking to county is we would have to already have gone through the process of going to somebody, getting a quote from them to say, yes, we would provide you services for the town. Here is, the contractual document. So you have to have the contract in place. And then you could request the MuniCon to actually enable the town to go out and contract those services. So those are the options. My understanding was that, assuming you've done those things, it's not a difficult process for the town to justify the need for that. So it's kind of, you just have to go through the steps of getting the contract, figuring out, getting close to an agreement, actually do that. Again, I think my preference is I want to continue working with our advisory committee, seeing what we need to do to kind of get the information that we need from the squad. Everything I'm hearing is calls are still being met. They're making it out. They're getting out and providing those services. I think it's really just figuring out how we get the information that we need so that we can move forward with renewing the contract and then figure out what we want to do, not just for this year, but for future years. So if there's something specific you want me to do or ask for, or you think we need to have an additional meeting with them to go through this, just let me know. Figure it out. That's it.
Okay. Kate or Charlotte?
You
So the HPC had their Ash Tree Arts Festival on June 1st. It went well. They had about approximately 100 people in attendance came through the rail trail throughout the day. They had 3 artists that participated. The Allergerville Hamlet Talk was held on May 19th. I, at one time, counted 53 people in attendance. It was very well received. If anybody gets an opportunity to get to one of the Hamlet Talks, they are really cool. You learn a lot about the history of the town, the people in the area, and it's fun. It's just basic stories of growing up in the area, whether you've been born and raised here or if you moved here in the 60s, 70s, and how your family adapted to it. It's really interesting to hear all different sides of stories. June 23rd, they will be hosting the Mombacus, Leapart, and Tabasco series, which will take place at the Accord Firehouse. That would be really interesting as well, because there's going to be a presentation also on the first people of the town of Rochester. And we don't have a lot of information on them, so it's really going to be interesting to hear that presentation as well. And that will take place at 1 o'clock at the Accord Firehouse.
All right, well, I'll start with housing. Not a ton to report on, mostly because we're still in a holding pattern and waiting for the county for, the housing site inventory to hear back. I've emailed about twice now and have heard crickets about what stages it's at. Same with the Granicus data. I hadn't heard anything as of the last time me and you spoke. I hadn't. Yes, so they're kind of in a holding pattern for that portion of what they've been working on. But they each they've been breaking it down since there's only 4 of them. They've been assigning tasks to, like, each person's taking on a task and doing homework on. So Marty has been gathering and processing short-term rental laws for all of the other towns in Ulster County to see if there's anything that we don't have in ours that they would possibly recommend. Mostly, at least from what I've seen, it seems to be more on the enforcement side that they've been trying to do a look into than the actual measures so far. Elizabeth is the point person between Pi and at the county planning department, and then the consultant who will be doing the housing site inventory. So there's again crickets on that front. And then in a attempt to try to help recruit more members, they did email over to the PTAs and the the PTA, and I believe the Teachers Association, for the school, just to say that there were seats available on the housing committee to, if anyone was interested, to apply on the town site. Because when they had met, I think last month was when they had met with a former member of Woodstock's housing committee that was originally formed there. And that was one of the suggestions that they made, that they got a lot of help and support from the school district for members, so they emailed just for a shot. They hadn't heard that yet. And they've been keeping a very close eye on the affordable housing transfer tax legislation. Is still making its way through New York. It's the same style of tax that we were just explaining for land conservation, but it would go towards housing, instead, so. That is where the housing committee's at. They are, and they're also very excited to welcome their new member, Ken, at the next meeting. And then for the rec department. All right. The recreation department is currently busy preparing for the summer program for 2024, booking trips, scheduling CPR training for staff, ordering t-shirts, and much more. We're excited for the upcoming season. They're also planning an Under the Sea themed end of year celebration for the kids in the after school program that will take place Friday, June 14th. Registration is currently open for the AARP Safe Driving course that will be taking place at the community center on August 12th. Call the rec department at 845-626-2115. Right, yeah, actually. For more information on that, for information regarding any other events or programs, please check out the quarterly newsletter. It can be found on the town's website. And I'm going to use this as a transition point to go to elder care, because June 15th, again, it's the same date every year, is Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And in conjunction with that, we will be doing again this year another elder resource luncheon and talk like we did last year. This year's though is going to actually be like a lot more of a luncheon style than just coffee and like Danishes. We're gonna get some sandwiches, some larger sandwiches, and then wraps and chips and small side things to be able to serve. And it'll be more like a resource fair where right now we will have Rich from our elder care program there. I will be there representing the Rondout Valley Food Pantry with special elder care goodie bags for people to get from them from there. We have the Office of the Aging. We're waiting to hear back on for someone who will be able to attend with a booth. Repco also, we're reaching out to see if anyone can come for the house repair grants that they have available. And then we're also waiting to hear back from the Rochester Food Pantry and then the assessor's office if they can do a table to explain exemptions to people, or if anyone has questions for exemptions. So it's kind of just going to be a easy, not really a presentation, just open fair of tables for people to stop at and learn the different resources that they have as seniors in our community.
So June 15th here, 12 o'clock.
That will be June 17th. June 15th is the actual awareness day, which is a Saturday. So the actual luncheon will be happening on June 17th from 11 to 1 p.m., 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at the Harold Lifton Community Center. If you guys have questions, I'm sure the girls will be happy to answer them, or you can also reach out to myself. But last year's event was successful. We actually had a few more people signed up for the elder care program afterwards, and some resources. We had some people take advantage of other resources that were there. So we're looking to make it an even bigger event for our seniors this year. And then, so for actual elder care that has happened in May, report. I know we only had one new sign up for the program, and so we had one call that resulted in a sign up. There was a issue with an elderly woman experienced an issue with her home. and was in need of an alternate place to stay, very later in the evening one night when most of the, areas were shelters were closed. And Constable Miller was able to work, with several local people, from a couple of the different local churches, and they found somewhere to stay for the night, and the issues are being rectified. So just thank you to Constable Miller and the Elder Care Program for helping assist and keep our residents safe for that situation. That's all. Right? Those are all my reports.
Great. I want to go back. I forgot to make an appointment. So, I would just like to announce the appointment of, Councilman Michael Coleman as the deputy supervisor. Does he have to take a oath of office?
Yeah.
And then need to have you, because the deputy supervisor is a signer on our bank account. So, whenever your earliest convenience will need to. I can bring you over next week too. Okay, and then for.
Congratulations.
Oh, I did not do that with fanfare. Okay, great. So the Agricultural Advisory Committee would like to use they have $1,000 budgeted, and they want to use that for right to farm or farmer awareness signage in town. So they're going to be submitting a proposal for that. They also did get us some comments about the proposed zoning changes, which I included in those documents. So we should all take a look at those before our meeting next week. And is also, they're interested in a farm inventory, and are really, right now, are really interested in awareness for sharing the road with tractors. With the code enforcement office, we actually had a meeting this morning to talk about enforcement of making sure we're doing enforcement of sound and traffic and safety in the summer season with all the events that we have. So that was a very good, productive meeting. One of the things that came up is that they would like the ability to, from their office, issue a certified sound device. So I think it might be in the correspondence packet, but they sent me the device they'd like me to purchase. So I believe that fits in our budget, but this way they'll be able to go out and do sound monitoring for special use permits and site plan approvals that have that in them. We also, our constables, we also have a sound monitoring device. So it would just allow for more staff to be able to do those checks and verifications because basically for sound, you have to go out there immediately. If someone just says, we get a verbal complaint, we don't know if it's in violation of those things unless there's a certified sound monitoring device doing the reading. They also, we are working to putting in some new shelving. They have a design that they made for the maps so that they'll be more accessible and take up like a space that makes sense. So I'm working to get the supplies they need ordered for that. For transfer station, we have, as you know, we appointed 2 new transfer station laborers. I've been getting lots of correspondence about, having people monitor the yard area. I met with Harry from buildings and our code enforcement officer about creating a sheltered space that's in the yard area. So we are going to take a portion of the covered space next to the free exchange, and Harry's going to make improvements to it and make it into a staff only area that will be covered and out of the elements. And that way they'll have a place that they can still see what's going on, but they'll have a station. And we've even started talking about things that they can have in the station, that to keep them out of the elements, like the informational pamphlets and flyers. And we've talked about, supplies and their grabbers and brooms. They're doing a very fantastic job of keeping the yard clean. Like you go there and you don't see garbage, and it's really nice. So kudos to our transfer station employees. We are also scheduling a training at the UCRRA with our employees. So I'm working to get that scheduled. We will be doing that on an off hour, so there will be a week where they work more, but we'll figure that out with the budget. They've also put in a request that instead of a mower, which we budgeted for, that we purchase a forklift with those funds, because they feel like that would be more useful. So I'm going to get a proposal and look at quotes for that and bring that to you guys soon, because that's the purchase. We have to have quotes for that. I think that's it for the transfer station. For what else? Oh, ECC. I have not been able to get to a meeting. I do know that they are still working on the plastics recycling. I think I did get a request to perhaps have like town support in getting the plastic brought to the place where it needs to go instead of the volunteers doing that. So I'm working to see if I can work that into a staff schedule so that it just happens more regularly. It takes it off the shoulders of the volunteers. And they also wanted to check in about the study that we sort of left it a little open and vague. So I'll be having a conversation with the chair about that, and maybe we would have a follow-up conversation about that. And I think, and for planning board, the planning board has been very busy. I know Chair Grasso mentioned this morning, there's 14 new applications that they've received. And they would really like to see us pass the proposed code changes, because they feel like that would make it a lot more, like, help them process some of those applications better. And so that I think that's it for now. I also received, we might potentially have another interested applicant for the ECC. That was for the ECC. So that should be coming soon. I think that's it for department updates and liaison reports. So now we're at the public, where we can hear from the public portion of our meeting. So is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Yes. Sure, if you'd like to. Just there's a microphone behind you and a microphone over here. So do your best to speak up.
Put some demonstration for you guys. It's really short. Okay, so it actually very good in following what you mentioned, talking about code enforcement. But I wanted to start using the famous phrase, Houston, we got a problem. And the problem is that some enterprises don't follow in condition of operation permit given to them. And I happen to be living right between them, like 120 degrees. I have a Venus, I have a Stonehill, and I have a Arrow. I am half a mile from Venus to the Valley. I'm 0.6 miles from Arrowwood, behind the woods. And I want to start from INS. When the application was considered in 2018, there was a sound study done by the consultant, and they had to come back because it was too much. They basically were programming, imitating sound, modeling sound, and they come back to saying, all right, from that, and they imitating sound inside of the event bar. And they came back and the recipe said, okay, instead of 4 doors, would be 2 doors, and it has to be rotated certain way. So it's obviously implied that all that amplifier music should be inside of the bar, not outside. Ines totally violates the condition, and they played in 2008, 2043. I went there when I heard they basically made an event and set up right outside of the barn. And this year in May, they had a wedding there. And how I found that it was a wedding there, I heard that it was a music, and then I heard the speech of the bride. Let me see, on
You want these back, or should we keep these for?
yeah, you can give it. Then on 6/1, I believe, I don't remember, unfortunately. 9:45 in the morning. They're playing music now from hotel, because the barn is to the left, and they're on somewhere deep inside. And I just want to demonstrate to you what I experienced. Yeah, so this was that wedding. You can see from noise,
You recorded this from your house.
right, from my deck. So that was at wedding, and now recording in the morning, 9:55. I don't think it's reasonable. Again, they have no permit to have a outside amplifier music. Next, to my surprise, it's Stonehill. All the time, I never heard anything, but last weekend at 10 p.m., I hear this. And I just came home because I hear the music. And Stonehill, when they were getting permit, specifically it was saying the applicant proposing using existing bar in connected lawn field area for commercial special events and inactivities. Events will take place solely in the bar. Then another paragraph, all special events shall be limited to existing bar. This music was played outside. Now about Arrowwood, I don't have latest records this year, but if you go, there is a company, Impact Concert LLC. They advertise in concert at Arrowwood Festival. When permit was considered for operation, there was only special events related to agricultural events. This basically concert. They now have a concert on 6/15. schedule, 6/17, 6/29, July 12, July 20th, July 31st, and September 21st. And this is example for selling tickets. So it's concert venue. Did they ever apply for permit to have a concert there? So that's what I'm trying to make a point. That before the condition of operation permit has to be enforced. And being a member of planning board, we're just wasting our time. We're discussing permit, we're putting condition in permit, but everything just goes in the air, useless. So I'm saying, thank you. It's not mine. And I suspect they will fight back, especially in considering what they represent. But they have to comply. And irony is, by the way, is Inns. They right now still have the tax abatement. They're using it, but they don't give. It's on certain size that they don't comply with the rules. I have not heard any. They contribute to the community anything. So this is a business that essentially ignoring everybody around. Well,
Anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to second the gentleman with Arrowwood. We live at 351 Medicons. Me and my husband and then my mother-in-law lives behind us. We live right next to Star Grocery. So we're at the corner of Medicon store. I can tell you exactly when they turn on their music. I can tell you exactly when they do sound check. I can tell you exactly what the announcers are telling you from almost 2 miles away from there. It is so loud. I don't know if they point their speakers a different way so it doesn't mess with Innis because there's golfers there. We don't know what the situation is. It is so loud that nobody can sit outside. You can't sit outside your own house and relax. And like he said, almost every weekend, there's a concert now. Like, Los Lobos or whatever it is coming. That has nothing to do with a farm. That has nothing to do with what they got their permit for. You know, we both work in healthcare. We only have weekends off. We cannot sit outside of our house for more than a half an hour without going crazy because it is so loud.
Not to mention the traffic. Nobody does traffic study, but the constables have been hired to drive around the block
110 times. We have video.
to do traffic control.
From last year, the constable just going around in a circle
Too.
and people cruising up and down in front of our house. You don't know how many people will stop at the middle of the intersection of Store Road and Medicons because they don't know where these things are. We've watched people get sideswiped. We're so worried that I won't let any of our kids or when our grandkids are here from Nebraska, they can't sit in our front yard. Because somebody's gonna get hit because of the traffic from Arrowwood and West Wing. It is horrible living there. My husband's gonna be 55 years old, has lived on the same property. And it's horrible anymore to live there.
The traffic control is non-existent. The constable usually sits, either we have them sitting in the parking lot in front of Star Grocery, which is nowhere near Arrowwood or West Wing, over on Lower Whitfield. But then one will sit at the end of Store Road and Lower Whitfield. And they'll go around, one will go around the block, and when he stops, the other one goes around the block. That's not controlling anything from Lower Whitfield to Whitfield, and it's definitely not controlling anything from Lower Whitfield to Medicahons. We've had, I believe 7 bad accidents on Medicahons Road in the last year.
One was a fatality. And they
I-
admitted where they were coming
That's it,
from,
yeah.
and I'm not gonna say where they were coming from, but they admitted where they were coming from. Luckily, I don't know who decided, but they changed the yield sign to a stop sign at the end of Lower Field. That doesn't help for crap, excuse my language. One of my best friends was actually just hit
Right there.
4 days ago
By somebody.
at that intersection because they were coming from there.
I mean, you
There's
have,
no
not
control.
only do you have that, but right at that intersection, you also have Fort Greene Fields, which everybody, it's a summer camp. And everybody's up for the summer already. So it's already a bad traffic situation on top of everything else. All the way up the road. There's so many different things in there. I don't believe there's ever a traffic study on, it, but I can tell you how badly it's needed.
Thank you.
What road are you referring to?
Medica House.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to address the board?
I do have a written comment that we
Okay.
had asked to be
Oh, sure.
read into the minutes. And I believe she CC'd the whole board on this, but since Michael's injury, I have been managing the garbage details for our home. It was truly a surprise to witness two new workers diligently assisting people in maintaining the cleanliness of the transfer station. Their presence will make a significant difference in our community. I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the board for their swift decision to hire these individuals. You as a board have solved more than one of the problems of the transfer station, keeping it clean and helping citizens in need. Also, with the watchful eye of your new hires, the bins are being much better monitored and sorted, which will make the UCRA very happy as well. Thank you and congratulations.
Okay, so now we have town board member time. So this is for the board to address anything that came up in the comments or anything else you'd like to bring up that isn't otherwise on the agenda.
The only thing I want to bring up also, Michael, I appreciate all your work about the fences and trying to find someone for that. And the only other thing I want to bring up is the back of this area, the park, or the not official park area back here. Just the cement, the building that's collapsed, I think also, needs to be addressed as soon as possible. I don't know if we have to do a request for bid, but to go out for it because it's clearly not a priority and not being done by our highway superintendent when it's been over 3 months since I brought this to the attention and he was directed to clean it by the previous supervisor. So I would like us to consider a different option because this is where our kids are watched and it needs to be safe there. And I find it taking that long. Not to anyone's fault on the board.
Do you feel like you have the time to try to get a sense of what that would look like?
Oh, yeah, I can
Yeah.
find, I'm happy to
Okay.
go out and find us, but you guys
Yeah.
are okay with that?
Yeah,
Because, no, we were trying to do the work internally at first, but I just think.
I think
that
it'd be
this
good
needs-
to know what the options are, and if you can do that, then I can prioritize it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to get quote, like get an I'll honestly probably have my father, who was a general contractor for 50 years, come and give me an estimate of how many yards he thinks it is worth for me to get proper quotes for it.
Okay.
So,
Yes,
that's all I want.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I hear what everyone's saying. We have to fix the enforcement issue that's going on. I hear what Zorian's saying. I mean, people are dedicating a lot of time going through, doing the work of making sure that, we're evaluating these and setting things in place to ensure we're protecting everyone in the area. And I know it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating when we as a board go through and look at the code and try to make changes to code to actually enable some of these protections, to know that, ultimately it needs to be enforced. If people are going to spend the time to do this stuff, we have to figure out a way to do it. I'm glad that we're looking at getting a noise meter. I think we need to start working to make sure that these businesses understand, their impacts to what they're doing beyond, what's happening on their property, particularly when it comes to noise and traffic and things like that. So,
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming here.
Yes. And I can just share that we, in addition to that, as I did share, we I am we are trying to see what resources we can utilize to get ahead as much as we can, because there are lots of things that happen in our town over the summer, and every year it feels like we're reacting rather than being proactive. Though I did get some very useful feedback from the code enforcement office of ways that we could update our code to make it, they made some suggestions for particularly the sound monitoring that is not structured in a certain way that they were recommending we did, which I agree with. So I wanted to have Mary Lou advise on that, but I'll be bringing some of that to our discussion about the zoning code, because there are just a couple of lines that we can insert in some of the chapters that would create a more of an accountability for the sound monitoring. But in the meantime, since there's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff that happens before that's in place, we talked about scheduling staff over the weekend to do monitoring and checking and patrolling, so.
Well, yeah, and there's zoning code, and then, I mean, should we consider a noise ordinance at some point? No, I know this is something that's come up multiple times, so I don't know if we want to look at that as a board again.
Yeah, I'm all for the sound ordinance. I live right next to the school with their new football stadium and speakers who are unfortunately exempt from any local sound ordinances. So what I can do to help people in the same situation as me, I'm happy.
I think it's worth discussing.
Okay, I think my proposal would be that we see what we can do in our existing draft proposal that could help mitigate some of this. Because it's gonna be a while before we actually pass a noise ordinance, so if we were to pass one, but let's see if there are things that we could do when we're looking at violation,
Yeah, I think that's a
wording,
great first.
how these things get monitored. And then we'll have to work with Mary Lou to see what our ability to enforce that on existing approvals is versus, so we'll just have to, that would be my proposal, because we're trying to finish that up kind of next week. And then we would have a faster way of maybe having some enforcement on these things. That all for board member time? Great, so now we're into our resolution portion. And I have some that I would have to kind of write on the fly, so here we go. The first one is easy. You wanna?
Oh, the minutes? Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion to accept resolution B as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you for lovely notes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, the next is acceptance of donations. I didn't get the St. Louis textile. Did you have any?
Yep, it's
Okay.
$302.21. And it's actually May and June.
Okay.
So that's why it's that.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the town board accepts donations of, and then I have it listed as the following: potting soil, spider plants, and mini planters from Susan Bruck, water sprinklers from Lisa Wojcicka, $164 in cash donations collected at the Spring Fling Luncheon, $20 from Judy Lambros, $50 from Mel and Elaine Tapper, $400 from Arlene Levine, $302.21 from St. Polly's Textile for May and June clothing collection.
And 7 boxes of snacks and drinks. And 3 cases of compostable paper products from the Rondout Valley Food Pantry.
And 7 boxes of snacks and drinks and
3
3 boxes of
compostable
compostable
paper goods.
paper goods from the Rondout Valley Food Pantry.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second, or no, I'm gonna abstain, because I donated.
Can you?
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can.
All right, never mind, yeah, second.
unless you want to take yours off.
Well, you're not getting anything.
No, I'm not, I'm giving.
Okay.
Because everyone
So
pays like
who's-
kosher to the public.
Well, I think it's more our lawyer.
I was gonna say, why don't you just take that one off and do that next week? Are you gonna have
Yeah,
more
hopefully.
people next week? Will Emily be there next week?
Vote on it, so we can take my amendment off and approve it. And
Okay, so the motion, okay, we don't have a, did we have a second?
I was second.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Anyway, that's all vote.
the motion on the table ends at the 30221 for St. Pauli's Textile May and June. We will not be considering the donation from the Rondell Valley Food Pantry with this resolution. Are you okay with that amendment? Okay, great. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Thank you so much to everyone for their generosity. Okay. So the next motion is the appointment of summer recreation program staff. This is, we give the ability for the department head of the recreation department to appoint the staff, but we are recognizing it tonight. So on request of the recreation director, the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints summer recreation staff as follows, effective June 24th, 2024 through August 23rd, 2024. For the rates of pay and hours as budgeted, I'm adding any adult over, making these appointments, but any adult over 18 is subject to a background check. So the appointments are recreation aide, Marianne Gates, Sheila Brown, and Veronica Schwenk. And recreation aides, Jen Wincoop, Brody Baker, Samantha Ridiak, Lacey Freer, Alexandra Morales, and Sophia Owen.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, and then the next one I have to fill in from my email. Okay, so on request of the highway superintendent, the town board, and I think we're supposed to say recognizes the appointments of the following. We have Dave Linscott, who's being moved from labor to MEO driver at the rate of pay of $26.88 per hour per union contract and per the adopted wage schedule by the town. And Riley Diamond in the position of HMEO at the rate of pay of $28.09 per the union contract. And Riley's start date is June 10th, 2024. And Dave Linscott's start date is also June 10th, 2024.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. I realized I forgot to send you the parking tickets. So what I think we have to table this till next week. I made updates to them per Mary Lou, and we wanted to have them reviewed to make sure that there was no issues about them. So what I'd like to do is get that draft out to you tomorrow morning and to Mary Lou and to the justices. And then I'd like to approve those next week at our workshop meeting. So I apologize. I thought I had printed them out and I didn't. So I feel like it's, we need to have them reviewed anyway. So I will get those to you tomorrow. I don't have any budget modifications prepared, so we are skipping over those. So we're at resolution J.
I make a motion to approve resolution J as presented for the town board to be a co-sponsor of Heritage Day.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, now we're at, I don't know, so I put this on the agenda. I don't think we've heard back. We have one open question.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to vote on this or do you want to table it?
If we could table it, and I'll try to get in touch with the bill and department.
Okay,
Put it on the agenda. I just want to make sure. Issues. that
okay,
currently-
okay.
So that is my action.
Okay. And then this is not a resolution, but I have in your folders, there's the presentation of local law E of 2024. That was the other zoning request change that we received that we heard from the applicant. So I'm presenting that to you so that we can set the public hearing next week. Right? You have to have it.
Right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yes, so if you, go ahead. Oh, unless you have
You
something.
you sent that to me?
Yes,
And do we need to do the seeker for that? Do you need me to prepare that or did I do it for
yes.
last? Did we do that last week?
Yeah, well, that was for a
Yes.
similar thing, but if this is a different.
Right, it's the same sort of thing, but a different parcel. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll prepare a basically identical, but not quite. Yeah, for that. Okay,
Great, and the laws are basically the same, so I guess.
right, it's changing the parcel
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah.
want to just do that, you can. If you'd like me to, I'm happy to.
Oh, no, I just want to make sure that the law I presented didn't have any issues.
Right,
But-
no,
Okay, great. I'm happy to have you do the seeker.
Okay.
And then on the next one, I haven't heard, well, I sent the GAR Associates, professional service agreement. I sent your comments, Mary Lou, but I didn't hear back.
Yes.
There was just one change really that that they would need to make on their end.
yeah, it's just adding the one word. And then putting in none in the
Yeah.
box in the addendum. And I know you sent those.
Oh, you're cutting out, Mary Lou.
Today. I don't have any problem if you guys, I'm sorry. Let me move my microphone. Is this better?
Yes, great.
Okay. All right. If you'd like to, you could pass it subject to those two changes being made.
Okay. So then we would say, so I'd like to make a motion that the Town of Rochester Down Board agrees to enter into a professional services agreement with GAR Associates LLC and authorizes the town supervisor to sign the agreement for professional services, subject to the changes recommended by the town attorney, by the attorney.
Attorney for the town.
Do I need to list what those were?
Yeah, let's put them in.
Um,
I'm pulling up one of our emails too to get the right language in case you don't have it right there.
I have it, the subject to the changes recommended by the attorney for the town, to add one word to number 6 unilaterally between, and the addition is town, and to enter the word none in the box in Exhibit B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay. I am sure that I am forgetting something, so, but we are through our resolutions, and we had a conversation about keeping our business meeting business and our workshop meeting workshop. So I'm trying to do that, keep this to a 3-hour meeting, which feels very strange, but also kind of reasonable, right? So instead of having a discussion portion, what I wanted to do is just workshop our workshop agenda. So I've listed what I thought of, and then I remembered one more thing. So, and then I wanted to open it up to the board to discuss what we think some reasonable time limits for this meeting is going to be. I have a feeling this could be a 4-hour meeting if we actually do all the things that we've committed to doing. And even a 4-hour meeting would be like a stretch for the lift that we're proposing. So the Community Preservation Plan Committee, it's going to do a deeper presentation, and we will have the presentation of the local laws. So the next thing we had that we wanted on that agenda is the highway roof request for bids. I had a conversation with Highway Superintendent Fry, who really advised that we have it be retard and not open it up to just full replacement, because he felt that the retarring is gonna last 20 more years, and the cost of it versus the investment costs of a full roof replacement would just be, he just felt like focusing in. I thought that sounded reasonable. So I wanted.
It needs to be done.
And it needs to be done. Yeah, he also, it's not an emergency, but it does need to be done. So I wanted to propose a request for bids that would be of that scope. Rather, we had previously talked about a full replacement, which could be, you know, what, $100,000 to $200,000 potentially. We just don't know what we would get. So this might make the process go faster.
Just know that if you go that route, it's gonna have to be during warmer weather, so you're
Yes.
gonna be at a really
Yes,
time
yeah.
crunch.
Yeah, we have to get it. Yeah. So I'm gonna try to get that put together for that meeting. That won't be a huge amount of discussion. It'll be me presenting. Hopefully I'll get it to you this weekend. So if you have any, would like there to be changes, we can do that, but I'm hoping that'll be like a 10 to 20-minute item. And then DDQs, the security consultant that we contracted with, what we had discussed is having them present to the board. And I talked to them about that. They can do a presentation that would not have anything that would, you know, put any public at risk, which would be something that would be subject, we could go into executive session for. So they're prepared to come and do that, and they're supposed to send me their proposal for the presentation and their draft slides by tomorrow. And because of, it felt like there was an urgency to address some of the safety concerns, I thought it would be good to have them on this agenda.
Yeah, I agree.
And then then there was one thing, so we have the tickets, we need to do that. We really need to get those approved. I'm hoping that that would also only be a 10-minute agenda item max, hopefully. And then the other would be if we wanted to set a public hearing for local law E. Would be another. And then the two big things would be, we're supposed to finish the mapping. So we did not get through, we wanted to do a review of all the parcels that were proposed in the original local law of 2013 of 2023 and get through reviewing all of the proposal changes and then create the file that we would then create a new draft from and then set a information session.
And renotice for the information
Yeah.
session.
And then we also were gonna do our final review of local law 14 of 2023, which is chapter 140 zoning. So I think those two things are 3 hours. Ambitiously.
Yeah,
What do you think? 4 hours?
I don't think it can be done in one, I don't think this whole thing can be done.
Well, this is what we have, this is what happens at all of our meetings. We say we're gonna do this at this meeting and I'm putting this stuff here.
I just think we need to prepare for it to be a long meeting, if we really wanna commit to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to prepare you guys for. Like, this is a 4 or 5 hour meeting.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think I can. Yeah, I would like food and I will stay until we're done with all this. If I am fed.
And iced coffee.
Oh, yes, iced coffee, fed,
Lots of caffeine and food.
some type of sugary item. I will stay awake.
Mary Lou, for that meeting, I think we might want you available or at least to send. I'm just thinking about how should we structure, I'm just trying to think of the most efficient use of your time. If the board goes through chapter 140 and we make final edits, which there might be some things like noise, some of the things we were talking about, we might insert some things that we might need to like re-refer that law. Would it be best for us to have you present during the discussion or create?
I think it probably, I'll make coffee too. Be best for me to be present, whether if you want me to come there, I will, or else this is fine this way. But I think that's probably more efficient than going back and forth.
Okay. So I might try to structure the agenda, so if there are things, well, you have to be there for the community preservation plan part anyway.
Right, for that, and you probably want me for the parking tickets.
Yes, okay, so we'll probably maybe we'll do the mapping last then, so then you can leave that meeting before we do the mapping.
Sure, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Was there anything else in that agenda that I'm missing?
You mentioned local data.
Yes.
And Aaron,
Yes.
if you have some proposals that you're thinking of after, noise and after talking with the building department and that you're gonna propose those things, if you can send them to me, Monday, that way
Okay.
if I have to research anything, I can. Because if I sit there and you're paying me to be there and I go, oh, I'll have to look that up. It's not an effective use of your money.
Okay.
Okay?
That sounds good.
Thanks.
Anything else about that meeting? So we're maybe gonna have a potluck meeting event.
It's my anniversary.
Oh,
You're not allowed.
That's okay.
bring your husband.
Yeah, bring a can. Open flower, nice decorating. It'll be the most romantic town board meeting you've ever attended.
We'll bring some candles.
If it makes you feel any better, Kate, For our 25th anniversary, I spent it at a really long public hearing for Walmart in the town of Wawarsing.
Oh,
I believe it.
that
Yeah.
probably, I don't remember, that's probably something.
Mary Lou, I have a question. Does an EAF have to be done prior to setting a public hearing for local law?
I would like it to be done before, because especially on the zoning ones, you have to send them out to the county and everything. So they want to see the EAF with that. It doesn't, at least part one should be done. You don't have to decide part two, but part one should be done, yes.
Okay. Okay,
No, I don't think that this will be,
okay.
I think if we keep the community preservation to a certain amount of time and PDQs to a certain amount of time, I think that we will be responsible amongst ourselves for the rest of it. I don't think that much of this is gonna cause like a huge rippling discussion for
Okay.
some of these.
Okay,
I'm
so
comfortable with that.
I don't think we need the executive session. Or,
Today?
today. I have 2 vouchers that I need you to review. And then after we are going to, I guess I have to say this publicly, because we will be having an attorney meeting right through when we close the meeting, so we'll have to do that.
Yeah, you don't even have to. You can meet with your attorney anytime, but
Okay,
I don't care that people know.
okay.
But if it's after
So
the
we're
adjournment
gonna
of the
be
meeting,
adjourning the meeting in a few minutes, but then we'll need the room. Okay, so these are the 2 invoices. And then, oh, I guess I do have one more thing. I didn't do, we give a clothing allowance
The highway.
to highway and laborers. And there's nothing in the benefit, there's nothing in the provisions about start and end date or whether it's prorated. So I wanted to ask you guys if I should just do the full amount or if I should prorate it. Cause it's given at January 1st.
Don't we normally pay at the end of the year? No?
We give it ahead and then I'd like to update this next year. We give it ahead and then they're responsible for submitting receipts, and if they don't, then they have to pay us back.
I'm fine with whatever you wanna do for this year. I also think that we should take a look at that procedure of how that goes for next year.
I think it should be prorated.
Okay. I'll just bring those vouchers then maybe next week, but
I mean, the idea is that it's for wear and tear on clothing, right?
yeah.
So, yeah.
If we want to give.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'll do then.
I'm voting in it, right? Say? Yes.
Sit back down.
That's fine. I don't want to rush down.
Great. Thank you. And with that,
I would like to make a motion to adjourn in memoriam of Stephen Arnold, Wilma DeJagger, and Wayne J. Porphyry, I believe is how you say his last name, who was a Purple, I'll spell it for you, Kate. Which he was a Purple Heart recipient for his time in the Vietnam War, and he was also a constable and peace officer for the town of Burley most recently. So.
That's all that's it.
Corkery. Porphyry. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, I'm sorry to anyone, for your family members.
I'll say,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that concludes our meeting for this evening. I'm gonna get us off the stream. And then Mary, you'll hang out until we got the room.
you guys.
Thank you.
I'm hanging